Imagine that you are a psychologist,
We've been having problems for years, and I think I'm ready to leave my marriage.
but personally, you believe marriage should always be preserved. So, what happens now? Psychologists are trained professionals, but they are also humans. They have their own attitudes, beliefs, and also values. And whether they realize it or not, this can influence the way they understand and respond to their clients.
Before we can understand why self-awareness matters, we first need to understand these things: beliefs, values, and attitudes. Beliefs are ideas or assumptions that we accept as true about ourselves, other people, and the world around us. For example, someone may believe that childhood experiences strongly influence who we become as adults. Values, on the other hand, are different. They represent what we consider important or worthwhile, and they often guide how we live and make decisions. For example, one person might strongly value independence, while another person might just place greater importance on family responsibility. Attitudes are how our beliefs and values can influence the way we evaluate and respond to people, situations, or ideas. So although attitudes, beliefs, and values are different, they are actually closely connected. Psychologists don't suddenly lose these parts of themselves when they become professionals. Their beliefs and values may develop through family, culture, education, personal experiences, and professional training. These experiences can influence how psychologists interpret a client's thoughts, emotions, and behavior. For example, a psychologist who strongly believes that childhood experiences influence adult behavior may naturally focus more on a client's childhood and family history. Having beliefs isn't necessarily the problem. The problem actually begins when beliefs becomes an assumptions. This is why attitudes, beliefs, and values are relevant to psychological ethics. Psychologists work with people whose cultures, religions, relationships, identities, and lifestyles may be completely different from their own. A psychologist may personally disagree with a client's choices, but personal disagreement should not become professional judgment. Professional ethical principles emphasize fairness and respect for people's rights and dignity. Psychologists should be aware of how their own values and limitations may affect their professional work. Ethical practice doesn't require psychologists to have no personal values. It requires them to get awareness of how those values might influence their work. So, what happens when they actually do?
We've been having problems for years, and I think I'm ready to leave my marriage.
Are you sure divorce is necessary? Maybe you should try harder to save your marriage.
A client is considering leaving her marriage after several years of emotional conflict. However, her psychologist personally believes that marriage should be preserved whenever it's possible. Because of this belief, the psychologist may unintentionally encourage the client to remain in the marriage instead of exploring the client's own feelings and goals. Even with good intentions, the psychologist may be imposing personal values on the client. The client may feel judged, guilty, or even pressured, which could make her less willing to communicate openly. So let's rewind that, shall we?
We've been having problems for years, and I think I'm ready to leave my marriage.
What has led you to this decision, and what feels most important to you right now?
See, isn't that slightly better? An ethical response would be to recognize these personal values, remain neutral, and help the client explore the situation according to her own needs, safety, values, and informed choices.
I've been thinking about moving out. I want to live independently and become financially independent.
But family should come first.
Now, imagine a young client who wants to move away from home and become financially independent. His psychologist comes from a cultural background where children are expected to remain close to their parents and prioritize family responsibilities. Without recognizing this cultural lens, the psychologist might interpret the client's desire for independence as selfish or disrespectful. But the psychologist's cultural expectations aren't automatically their clients. Instead of assuming what is wrong or what is right, the psychologist should explore the client's own cultural background, family expectations, and personal goals.
Maybe they're just not committed.
And finally, imagine a client who repeatedly misses appointments and struggles to complete activities between sessions. The psychologist initially assumes that the client simply isn't committed to therapy. What the psychologist doesn't initially realize is that the client is actually experiencing financial difficulties, transportation problems, and an unpredictable work schedule. The psychologist's own socioeconomic experience may influence how they interpret the client's behavior.
I've noticed it's been difficult for you to attend regularly. Are there any barriers that have been making this difficult?
Actually, yeah.
So in all three situations, the psychologist's initial reaction may feel completely reasonable to them. And that's what makes personal bias difficult to be recognized. So how can psychologists recognize it?
That's where self-awareness becomes important. Self-awareness is the ability to recognize our own thoughts, emotions, behaviors, beliefs, and reactions. For psychologists, it means recognizing that their own experience and perspectives can influence how they understand and respond to clients. Self-awareness creates an opportunity to catch assumptions before they become professional decisions. Recognizing bias begins with paying attention to our own reactions. Psychologists can reflect on moments when a client's behavior makes them unusually uncomfortable, frustrated, or defensive. They might even ask themselves, why did I react that way? Was my judgment based on professional understanding or on my personal beliefs? Would I think the same way if this client had a different background? Psychologists don't have to develop self-awareness alone. Supervision can provide another professional perspective. Cultural learning reminds psychologists that their worldview isn't universal. Feedback can reveal patterns that may be difficult to recognize alone, while ongoing education supports ethical and cultural responsive practice. One simple way to remember this process is to pause. Pay attention to your reaction, ask why you are reacting that way, understand how your experiences and beliefs may be influencing you, seek another perspective when necessary, and ethically respond by returning the focus to the client's needs. Sometimes ethical self-awareness starts with something as simple as pausing before responding, but recognizing bias is only the first step. Once psychologists recognize that their personal beliefs may be influencing their work, they have a professional responsibility to manage that influence. Psychologists naturally have their own attitudes, beliefs, and values. The ethical issue arises when those beliefs begin controlling how they treat, assess, or make decisions for clients. Think of professional responsibility as knowing where to draw the line between what I personally believe and what my professional role requires. Psychologists don't have to personally agree with every decision a client makes, but they do need to respect the client's right to make informed decisions about their own life. When psychologists steer clients towards decisions based on their own personal values, this can become value imposition. The psychologists may genuinely believe that they are helping, but because psychologists hold professional authority, a personal opinion can easily sound like professional advice. Instead, ethical practice protects client autonomy. Psychologists can provide relevant information, explore possible options and consequences, support the client's own goals and values, and respect their informed choices. Professional responsibility also means remembering that our worldview isn't universal. Clients may have completely different cultures, family structures, religious beliefs, and ideas about relationships or independence.
And if psychologists recognize that their personal reactions are affecting their ability to remain objective, supervision or consultation can help them identify bias, challenge assumptions, and consider alternative perspectives. Ultimately, ethical principles give psychologists a way to navigate situations where personal values and professional responsibilities conflict. Instead of asking what they personally think is right, psychologists can focus on what protects the client's well-being, respects their rights and autonomy, avoids harm, and maintains professional practice.
So, let's return to the question that we started with.
We've been having problems for years, and I think I'm ready to leave my marriage.
What happens when a client's decisions conflicts with a psychologist's personal beliefs? The psychologist doesn't need to erase those beliefs. They need to recognize them, reflect on them, manage their influence, and keep the client's welfare at the center of professional practice. Psychologists are just normal human beings. They will have personal experience, beliefs, values, and emotional reactions. Ethical practice isn't about pretending those influences doesn't exist. It's about becoming aware of them before they begin speaking louder than the client's words. Because self-awareness doesn't remove our humanity from psychological practice. It helps us practice more responsibly of it.